Hello, and welcome to the podcast where friends discuss environmental policies from around the planet. On episode 46, we talked about chemicals in the fashion industry. What those alternatives are. We're going to be discussing textiles sourced from animals, as well as synthetic textiles and plant textiles. So, like we've talked about before, synthetic textiles can have a lot of damaging effects in general, just because of the amount of chemicals and solvents that are used to create them. But organic chemicals aren't free from this as well. I will refer you to the amount of water used in cotton consumption. Let's get into what brought us to this point: fossil fuels, plastics, and how much of those are in our clothes. What should we be choosing to avoid these? It all starts with a video. The Woolwork Company created a short video highlighting the problematic use of fossil fuels in clothing. It's like 1 minute long on YouTube, so it will take nothing from your time to check it out. It's provocative, like how it is. It's these people like coming out of oil and then they shed the oil and they're wearing clothes. I don't know, check it out. But basically, we wanted to talk about the amount of plastic we wear every day, because it is estimated that synthetic fibers will grow from 69 to 73% of total fiber production by 2030. And polyester accounts for like 85% of this. BP's energy scenario presumes plastic production will account for 95% of the future growth of oil demand. So they're banking on this. And the IEA predicts that petrochemicals will represent 50% of growth in oil demand by 2050 and 4% in the projected growth of gas demand. If you want to know more about just how dangerous the pollution problem is from making synthetic fibers, we did a great job explaining this on episodes 13 and 14 the last time we talked about textiles and fashion and all of that. But, we hate to leave you guys without solutions. So, Audra, are there synthetic options that don't use fossil fuels, or any recycled clothing that you would recommend?
Well, of course, we're not telling you to go naked now, or are we?
Are we?
So the fibers that we do like are obviously eco-friendly fibers, which means that their production process has a very low impact on the environment. And it meets at least some of the criteria, which is low water need, they need less energy, they're made of waste material or from renewable resources, there's not a lot of chemicals that are used on them, non-GMO, yes, call me a white housewife, no soil erosion, and they're biodegradable. So some of the examples of these recycled fibers, right, they're basically just all of your clothes, except it's recycled, right? So it could be polyester. So the way that recycled polyester is made, that it uses plastic bottles to make them, right? So it's like a great way to dispose those off. Then we have recycled wool, of course, because it comes from sheep and we don't actually want to use land to raise more sheep to be killed for wool. So it kind of helps save on that land. Also, it saves us like a ton of water. Nylon, it's mostly from old fishing nets. So you're really saving ocean trash, so that's a good alternative. And any other recycled textile, really, because the whole idea is reduce, reuse, recycle. But remember, recycled polyester is definitely a sustainable option for our wardrobe, but we have to be aware that it is still non-biodegradable and it takes years to disappear once thrown away. And it also releases a lot of plastic microfibers, so that's also something to consider. We can also use plant-based fibers with low environmental impact, right? So there's organic cotton. That means that it's just farmed in a way that they don't use fertilizers or pesticides, which not only saves the planet, because the soil isn't contaminated, but it also helps the farmers because, that thing is toxic to farmers. You can use linen. It comes from flax plants, and they basically just grow anywhere. They can literally grow in a polluted area, right? They also have a very high rate of carbon absorption. So those fibers are great. Honestly, we use a lot of linen in Pakistan. Like in the winters, most of our clothes are linen. Great option. It uses so little resources to be made that it's really sustainable even when it's not grown organically. So flax plants, great for the environment. The fiber that comes out of it, linen is a great material, guys. It's soft. It's a little bit hot but it's still great. I really love linen. You just really need to iron it. So that's like another energy problem.
You guys know those ads for like cotton where they put out the ads, like the whole cotton industry has a big ad on TV. That's Adwa, but for linen. She is by herself going to grow the production and consumption of linen across the globe.
Right. Linen is so amazing. It can grow everywhere. I know that people have this. So, well, it brings me to the next thing because people are so obsessed with hemp, right? It's literally just like linen in terms of sustainability and like it's plant that's good for the soil, etc. But because it comes from the same plant as marijuana, which honestly, personally, I think is what brought it to pop culture. Because, linen... hemp is also not like the softest material to wear. I have a hemp jumpsuit and, it's not the softest. Linen, on the other hand, bro, it's like, angels are touching you. It's nice.
It's true. And there's also light linen for summer wear as well. Look at us promoting linen. They should give us a plug. Linen industry, where are you?
You really need to step up your game, bro. But, so that's why people hate on hemp. Well, that's why pop culture loves hemp and regulators hate hemp because marijuana, really. But yeah, give them all the plastic and they'll wear that.
Exactly.
Okay, rami is also a plant that produces a similar fiber as linen, but it's not really common. I think it's more in the European region. And finally, natural rubber, the one that comes from the milk of hevea tree and can actually help the tree flourish, not the one that that is synthetically made and is definitely not good for the environment because it doesn't biodegrade easily.
Yep.
But natural hemp is very easy to recycle and is biodegradable. So if you want to choose, pick that option. Then we have animal-based fibers that are sustainably produced and can also be used. For example, alpaca, which is apparently better to kill than a cashmere goat for your cashmere garments because alpacas don't harm the soil as much because, they have like soft feet. They also need very little water. They don't actually pull out the grass, but instead cut it like the fine gentlemen that they are.
Very graceful alpacas.
And killing one of them gives you 4 or 5 sweaters, while you need 4 to 5 cashmere goats for a single sweater. So really pick your animal to kill and how many to kill responsibly, of course.
Welcome to the Planet Policy Pals podcast, an environmental podcast where we tell you what animal to kill.
Because you gotta kill, so pick one. Anyway, then we have silk. It's also a good option because it only kills silkworms, and nobody really likes insects. Am I right?
Okay. No, we're now just like going on full-on straight animal murder. Continue.
No, but they have come up with a way to actually help the moth escape the cocoon before they actually boil it to produce silk. And that's thanks to animal rights advocates or insect rights advocates. Anyway.
Okay.
So
PETA, Insect Division. Okay, I gotta stop. I'm sorry.
Oh, God. Anyway. So bioorganic silk, honestly, it doesn't use chemicals to produce silk. So that's a good alternative. Responsible wool. Since we're already killing these animals anyway, at least buy the garments that are nice to these sheep before they kill them.
That's right. Double down.
And they last a long time. So, you can buy one wool garment and keep it for 5 years, 10 years. Pass it to your children, grandchildren. I don't care. Don't throw it out. I mean, you can because it biodegrades easily. But still, just keep wearing it, man. It lasts long. That's why you're buying it. Also, it's super expensive. You don't want to keep buying it. But apparently, there's a way to make responsible leather, which sounds like an oxymoron in itself, because like even if we ignore the dead skin of animals part, it's the tanning industry that is just not a sustainable industry. Okay, they use like a lot of chemicals. It's so water intensive. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So there are people who are trying to make it. So I'll just suggest waiting until there's enough studies about it being sustainable. You can live without leather. You'll be fine.
We'll definitely wait on the leather thing because leather is like horrible.
Mm-hmm. And then there's responsible down, which honestly you really even shouldn't be buying. It's literally made out of feathers that's plucked out of birds while they're still alive. So you could hold back on that. But there's some semi-synthetic fibers that have low environmental impact, like orange fiber or pineapple fiber that is basically just made from like waste of these fruits. But I'd say just avoid it altogether.
Yeah, I would, especially like viscose type plant material, because how they make it uses a lot of solvents that maybe are not the best things to have running in your water. And I think one thing you have to realize about viscose is it's been around for a long time. It's supposed to be kind of an alternative to silk. And people do sometimes, like, they will argue that it's extracted from things like bark and wood and bamboo and stuff like that. But all those things still need to get logged. And yes, it does use less water in its processing than cotton does. However, I just want you guys to realize that this material that's been around since the 20th century and is in a lot of activewear requires upwards of 150 million trees to be logged for its production every year. So, deforestation, come on, guys, And like we said, it uses a lot of chemicals. The biggest problem is carbon disulfide, and that has been linked to hysteria in factory workers that produce this textile. There's also links to coronary heart disease, leukemia, Parkinson's, and stroke. So there are some ways, I guess people are saying there's ways to clean viscose. First of all, we have to start with its sourcing, right? We have to start, if we were using more closed loop production practices and sourcing the actual pulp from discarded plant material or husks as opposed to just felling trees, that would be a good start. But the chemical issue is still another thing. And you might be thinking, I don't know anything like viscose. What are you talking about? Well, there's also rayon, right? Which is cellulose-based fiber. Cellulose being things like, basically the pulp, and it's not synthetic. There's modal, lyocell, but the lyocell process is somewhat more sustainable because it's more closed loop and it doesn't use harmful chemicals. I think we talked a little bit about that on our previous fashion episode 46. Again, I managed to plug it 3 times. And there's this thing called lensing, which is fairly new, so I'm gonna wait to see how that goes. I don't know if to tell you whether to buy it or not. No, I do. I would say maybe check to see what kind of viscose is in your clothing. And sometimes manufacturers don't explicitly state it, so it's not your fault if you miss it. But yeah, not a fan. Anyway, thank you guys for listening to this extra policy. Of course, we loved having you guys here. We are super grateful that we get to do this show. Next week we are gonna be off because we're doing this 1 week on, 1 week off thing with our little sort of break situation.
Please don't forget to rate us and review us and email questions and comments to planetpolicypals@gmail.com or hit us up in our DMs. We love you all, and until next time, keep learning, pals.